and are within the control of the teacher.
Oh, come on.
Disciplinary problems in the classroom are symptoms of underlying...
Yeah, he's got his back turned. All right, welcome back to another School Principal Reacts. I am doing something very different today. Every once in a while, I get these little ideas and I just go off in a different direction. This is something that I saw sort of randomly on YouTube a while back. And if you don't know this, there are several channels on YouTube that have very old training materials, let's say, and some of them that I found are on education. This little video is called Maintaining Classroom Discipline, but I noted it's from 1947. So I thought to myself when I saw it, I don't know what they're gonna say here, and I'm wondering what my opinion is gonna be on it. I've had countless trainings in classroom management over the last 20 years and have helped other people to strengthen their own classroom management. So I'm wondering what we're gonna see here. There's really no telling what it's gonna say here. If you're not subscribed to the channel, take a minute and subscribe before we begin, but without further ado, let's see what this video has in store. Listen to that. This is an old video. Correlated with Scorling's student teaching. I've never heard of that. Oh boy.
The vast majority of behavior problems in the classroom involve minor breaches of discipline.
Oh. This is so old. Look at how they're just mashed in there together. I mean, it's not uncommon to have a class of 20 or 30 kids, depending on what the classroom setup is like, but they are just squished in there together close, which could create some behavior issues on its own. And just look at this. The teacher has his back turned, which is not good. There's an old-fashioned chalkboard, which, you know, in 1947, I could definitely understand that. I also notice, of course, this is pre-Brown versus Board of Education. So, of course, you've got school segregation still in place here, as you can see. Let's see what happens here.
These incidents frequently originate in the classroom situation itself and are within the control of the teacher.
Oh, come on.
Disciplinary problems in the classroom are symptoms of underlying...
Yeah, he's got his back turned. I mean, he's just like doing his own thing in his own world. I never turned my back to students when I was a teacher. If I had to write something on the board, I would invent ways of doing it where I could still, you know, sort of see behind me, or I would position myself in such a way that I could still sort of see what was going on.
Weaknesses in total learning situation.
Oh, he's getting bold. Goodness.
Mr. Grimes, mathematics teacher, is displeased with the progress of his 9th grade class in mathematics.
Which is not uncommon. Even today, 9th grade math is notorious for being quite difficult for students and teachers alike in terms of trying to get their class to grow. Yeah, 9th grade math, that rings true today as well.
You see what low grades you made on your weekly mathematics test?
Look at this guy with this double-breasted suit. And I have seen teachers dress this way. I mean, I have, but not a whole lot. I don't even know a lot of principals that would dress quite this formal, especially with the whole double-breasted look, but I guess that's just the times here.
More than half of you failed. Most of those who passed just got by. Nobody had 100%. This is the poorest class I've had in a long, long time.
Why would you say that? Now, I can totally understand wanting to go through and talk about the overall performance of the class. That is very appropriate. Granted, how he started was a little harsh. I mean, you want to emphasize specific elements that students got wrong and tell them what the plan is for improvement. But he said... He said, this is the poorest class I've had in a long time. Now, have I had teachers say that in my career? I have. It's not good, though. I don't condone it saying that, because he's not saying even here your performance was poor, or I would have liked to have seen you do a little bit better, and I have a plan for us to improve and really work on this so we can get better, you know, kind of emphasizing the positive or what the plan is. But he says the class is poor. He doesn't say the performance is poor. He says the class is poor, as if to make some sort of value judgment about them personally, not that they didn't do so well on the test. Let's keep going.
Most of you have no foundation at all.
I've heard teachers say that because, you see, math in particular is very much building on itself. And so if you don't have certain fundamental skills at earlier levels that you're supposed to have in 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade, you're going to have a hard time with nowadays 9th grade algebra 1 is very common. And so he says you have no foundation. I have heard many teachers say that before, but it has to go along with, we're going to do this, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a plan to scaffold up to where you could be on grade level and we can still, succeed, not just you're the poorest class I've had in a long time.
Now, the trouble's with your attitude. You don't pay enough attention in class.
Okay.
You don't do enough work outside of it. You don't know what the word study means. You haven't the slightest idea.
Now, this part is a little harsh, but would probably be within the bounds of what is acceptable, but he's got to watch his tone here, and it has to go along with whatever he says the plan is going to be, which I'm curious as to what he says and does here.
I tell you right now that unless you get over your lazy habits and come up to the standards I've set for this class, many of you will have the pleasure of repeating this course next semester.
Oh, yeah, the old, if you don't do well, you're going to repeat it. That's not a great attitude to take. I have heard teachers say that, but it has to be within the context of, like, I don't want you to do that. Like, I want to help you. Please let me help you. Let's make a plan. Come to my classroom either after school or during my planning if the teacher is willing to do that. And let's work, let's study, let's work together. And yes, if you don't, there's a possibility of you ending up repeating this class. And I don't want you to do that. I want you to succeed. It has to go along with that sort of attitude.
Oh, what is it?
A note from Dr. Williams.
Is that from the principal?
I heard that one.
And it's funny, I see this less and less, but even today in 2025, as of the filming of this video, it's probably 2026. I filmed this just before the new year, but in 2026, let's say, you do still have this where a student delivers a note from another teacher or from the principal, although it's far more common now to have it sent via email. If it's going to be a written note, it's going to be something that is not sensitive or anything. I have had students that will deliver notes like that they'll read the note. So it may say something like, hey, please see me after class, or I was going to say like email me, but in 1947, that would not be the case. But it may say, hey, please come meet with me after school or something like that. Or I don't know, it may say something completely different. Let's keep going.
I have to leave for a few minutes. Now I want you to open your books.
Leave? What do you mean, man?
Correct solutions of the problems you missed.
Don't leave. I mean, you saw what happened when he just turned his back. Imagine what's going to happen when he leaves. And I see this from time to time in TV shows and movies where you've got a class going on and the teacher steps out. That is like rule, not even number 1, that's rule number 0. You do not leave your students unattended, because in a classroom setting like this, it's a little different like during transitions and at lunch, but if you're in a classroom setting and you just walk off and then something terrible happens, you as the teacher are going to get part of the blame for that happening, because whenever I have been an administrator and I've dealt with this, the first question from the parent when you call them is, where was the teacher? And if the answer is not in front of those students and, they intervened immediately, that's not going to be good for the teacher. So let's see what happens. Is he really going to leave here? Oh my goodness. He just walks out. Now what?
I can't make any sense out of this. I might as well quit. Gee, he never even took up this third problem. It's a jip.
Okay, well, they're talking about the content. That makes me feel, I guess, a little bit better. I would have expected them to immediately, start throwing stuff. I know on more modern TV shows and comedies in particular, if that happened, they would immediately start just going hog wild in there. Uh-oh.
The trouble is, you don't know what the word study means. You haven't the slightest idea.
Oh, try
Yeah, here we go. Oh, and is this the teacher here? And I know back in the day, I would often see students do imitations of the teacher. I don't see that so much anymore. I do see the throwing stuff, and nowadays students would immediately get out their phones and just start doing whatever they wanted here. Ooh, throwing stuff.
What kind of behavior do you call this?
Ooh.
Wait a minute, you say where you are. This is the kind of behavior I might have expected of you. All I do is leave the room for a few minutes, and what do I find?
But you're not supposed to do that. And I don't know, maybe in 1947, they just left whenever they wanted to. They probably did, honestly, back in the day. The notion that the teacher would say, hey, you guys keep working, I'll be back in a minute. That was maybe acceptable. I don't know. I have seen that more often back in the day, particularly when I was a student, but not really. Even when I was a student in the late 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, you just wouldn't have teachers that would just up and leave the room because anything could happen at that point like it did here.
Confusion, disorder. And what were you doing?
I was just going...
Going to what? Throw the eraser, I suppose. It's a good thing I caught you. I'll make an example out of you.
Really?
But
That's enough out of you. Leave this room and report to the principal's office immediately.
Yeah, and this is a big difference to today also. I know back in the day, particularly, during this time and much later, but certainly not today, you could just say, hey, go to the principal's office. You could just say that, and the student would just go there. Now, nowadays, I don't know many teachers who would do this. Number one, the school is going to require some sort of documentation unless it's like an immediate need. They're going to require a disciplinary referral of some sort. And the purpose of that is not really to burden the teacher. It's because it's tough to really do anything without something in writing, some information. So if it's disputed by the parent or the student or somebody else, you can say, no, this is what the teacher said happened. It's in writing. I have it right here, and that's it. Now, the other issue is, of course, you do have situations where you might need that student out of there immediately. Of course, that happens, and we know that happens. But if a student is acting out like this student is, you might not exactly trust that student is going to faithfully go to the office like they've been told. So if you say to them, particularly if the student is acting out a lot, hey, go to the office, you think they're really going to go, oh yeah, let me just walk right down to the principal's office like I'm supposed to do because I always obey the rules. No, more than likely you're going to call for someone. Now, in this era, you really couldn't do that. It's not like they could pick up, they had phones, I guess, like landline phones. I don't know if they had the ability to call the office, like internally. Maybe they didn't have the ability to do that. Probably not. So you can't exactly call. Now, nowadays, you've got phone apps. You've got systems where you can just press a button and someone will come. You've got a lot of different things. I've served at schools where they used a system where you had a little badge that you would press a button and someone would come to help you. Those kinds of systems have been around for a while, or at the very least, you can pick up a classroom phone that calls the office and say, hey, I need an administrator down here, and an administrator will come. Many times I've been the administrator that has to come to those sort of things. And the number one issue is, hey, the rest of the class really is not able to continue while with the student in here. So I had to remove, that student many times. But in this case, he's just saying, hey, go to the office. I hope he goes there.
Well, hurry up. Don't take all day.
And the teacher here sounds really frustrated with him saying, don't take all day. I have, unfortunately, heard many teachers that will get frustrated. Listen, I get it. It is very frustrating when dealing with a student who is presenting a disciplinary issue. But the more frustrated you are, if you allow yourself to be perceived as being very frustrated, it's not good for you. And I've also seen many teachers that will end up saying things that they can't take back, that a student in the class will tell their parents about, and the parent will say, the teacher said this. And if it's something inappropriate, it can lead to other issues.
All right, since you think it's so funny, the whole class can stay in for 45 minutes this afternoon.
Nah. Those kind of blanket punishments are never fair and never work. Now, I understand there may be other situations outside of education where you might employ that. I know in the military, they do that quite a bit. But in the classroom setting, you really, really can't do that because parents are going to call in. Nowadays, parents would call in and say, the teacher punished my child and they had nothing to do with this. And I mean, that is true. You really have to limit whatever consequences are given to the students that are responsible. You can't deal with all these blanket punishments. Now, have I seen that happen before in my career? Absolutely. And unfortunately, I've had to clean up the mess left by those sorts of blanket punishments.
Then you'll see how funny it is. Remember, the whole class is to report back here at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Where were we?
I can't come. I got a newspaper out to do.
Yeah, he says, I can't come. I've got a newspaper out. So he's trying to make the class stay after school. You really can't do that. I don't know if that was allowed in 1947. Nowadays, that really wouldn't fly.
I got football practice.
Football
you can
practice.
go fly a kite.
Fly a
I have a
kite.
piano lesson.
He said, I think he said, like as a sarcastic remark, he can go fly a kite. You know, I haven't heard that in quite a while. I don't know if I've ever heard it.
I think he's horrible.
Stop that whispering.
And you know, it's funny, aside from the paper throwing, these kids don't seem to be misbehaving all that much. And he is giving consequences to students who really had nothing to do with it. Most of them, I saw maybe 2 or 3 kids that maybe could use some consequences, but most of them are just sitting there. And yeah, they didn't perform too well on the test that he was talking about, but that's no reason to try and force them to come after school for some sort of twisted detention. I'm not sure what's going to be the end result here.
Many of you will have the pleasure of repeating this course next semester.
What kind of motivation is this? To what does it lead?
The trouble is, you don't know what the word study means. You haven't the slightest idea.
This reaction is the answer. It was the result of Mr. Grimes' provocative remarks.
Okay, so this is like the training portion of the video. And as cheesy and corny as this little narration is, he is right here that what they call Mr. Grimes' provocative remarks did sort of cause part of this.
It's a good thing I caught you. I'll make an example out of you.
Oh, come now, Mr. Grimes. By taking it out on the boy, aren't you covering up a symptom of your own deficiency?
That's kind of a strange and antiquated way to put it, but yeah, he is covering up his own deficiency. Really, it's his attitude, and unfortunately, I have seen some teachers in my career that will take this up, this sort of attitude, this mean, harsh attitude. Now, is it the majority of teachers? No. Most people who go into teaching, and especially veteran teachers who've been around a while, they're not going to have this kind of attitude because they're not going to last very long if they are just quite that harsh. Now, that doesn't mean you don't hold students accountable, of course, but there are many other ways to do that other than treating students like this.
All right, since you think it's so funny, the whole class can stay in for 45 minutes this afternoon.
Mass punishment is a dangerous weapon and doesn't work too well.
Yeah, that's true. I was wondering whether the film was going to address it. Mass punishment doesn't work too well. That's very true because most of these students had nothing to do with these issues. It was only 2 or 3 of them.
2 detentions. 3 detentions. Leave this room and don't come back until you're ready to apologize to me.
Oh, I have heard statements like this made by teachers. Again, not very often and not by very many people, but this does exist in education. But thankfully, most teachers do not. I want to make that clear, do not have this type of attitude, but I have heard it before. And I have seen schools, particularly years ago, where teachers did have control over detentions or could make them stay after. That's largely gone away, at least in my experience. The whole after-school detention doesn't exist in many places anymore because students have other stuff going on and parents are not going to be able to come and pick them up after school in many cases. A lot of students do depend on the public school bus to take them home.
It's a long way to the end of the term. When will this end? Thus, what should have developed into a sequence of pleasant and valuable learning experiences had deteriorated into a series of disagreeable and injurious personal tensions.
Yeah, it's really corny and cheesy. I don't know where this kind of narrated voice comes from that you often hear of films of this era, but it is true. I mean, that is why experienced teachers or teachers that are really good at their job, frankly, they make a big effort to make a connection with students, particularly in that first week. Yes, you're teaching content, and yes, you're beginning to master the standards, but teachers make a big effort to get to know their kids. They'll have little activities that are planned specific to that, just getting to know them and just developing that positive rapport with them so that it makes it less likely for these types of things to happen. Or if they do, they're better equipped to deal with them because of that connection made with students.
This is all wrong. Need any of these incidents have occurred at all?
I actually didn't know you could do that in 1947. Put that little X effect on the screen. That's cool, I guess.
Suppose Mr. Grimes had tried another approach.
Most of you are disappointed in the low grades you made on this test. So am I. Nearly all of you had trouble with that last problem on ratio.
Notice his tone is completely different, and there's no issue like he's doing here. There's no issue with expressing disappointment. Of course, you want students to do well, but let's see what his different approach is. I'm really curious.
Now, ratio is commonly used in everyday life. Mother uses it in the kitchen when she takes a recipe for a big cake and uses proportional amounts of ingredients to make a little cake, vice versa. But let's suppose a recipe called for 8 cups of flour and 4 eggs.
Okay, so he's using a real world example, which is very good. I mean, making it relatable to students. Oh, what does he do this time?
Now, you know where that border ratio belongs. That's right, put it there.
Grimes sure caught him in the act.
All Grimes is a pretty good egg.
Okay, so not to say that he wouldn't necessarily get any consequences, but I don't know what he would plan to do, maybe talk to him at a later time, but I still think he should probably address it at some point, but he doesn't necessarily have to do it right here in front of the class, which is never good. You never want to do that in front of the class.
But in spite of interest and meaning, it must be remembered that some incidents will occur. Skill in handling such occurrences prevent their growth into problems.
Yeah, and actually that's a good point. So it's not as if you're a really good teacher and have perfect procedures that students aren't going to misbehave. That's just not the case. Every single place I've been at, even at very high-performing schools where there weren't very many disciplinary incidents, students still did misbehave because they are still students after all, and that's going to happen. But as the narrator, sort of cheesy narrator says, it is sort of how you handle it.
A friendly attitude with a sprinkling of humor goes a long way toward winning the regard and cooperation of the class. For respect is a more desirable molder of behavior than fear.
Yeah, that's true. And that positive attitude, not to say that you don't hold people accountable, because you do, you have to, but that attitude is everything sometimes. Okay. No music or anything, just silence. All right, well, that's the video. And one thing I didn't notice until just now is it says there copyright 1947, but it says by McGraw-Hill Book Company, which is still today one of the major producers of curriculum and other educational materials. McGraw-Hill produced this video in 1947, which they have been around a long time and apparently have been providing training materials for a long time. That's really interesting. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this video. This was just sort of a different idea I had. I really was curious when I saw this randomly when I was watching YouTube myself, and I thought, I wonder what is in there. Maybe I should react to it. If you're not a subscriber to the channel, please take a minute and click the link below. Let me know what you thought once again in the comments. But I'm going to leave the video here. I'll see you next time on School Principal Reacts. Thanks for watching.